will you do me a small favor? Don't forget to grow up and live happily ever after.
Overflowing honey pot tutorial. I wanted to go ahead and make this one free for our group, guys. But here are the materials. Now, we're gonna have a glue gun to lock in the ends for extra security, and that's the option right there. And 3 different skeins here: yellow, blue, and baby blue, all preference colors, because we know Winnie the Pooh honey pot can be so many different colors. So we're gonna start off with 16. We want to cast on 16. And I'm not really teaching this too much as beginner. I just want to go ahead and make this free to be part of the Winnie the Pooh and Piglet combo that I have as a tutorial in my Etsy shop with a cute bee. And this just makes such a cute set that I want to go ahead and show how I teach also, and just provide this for our group. So we are casting on 16, and we don't have to make these loops relatively tight. It's your foundation chain. You can go ahead and make them almost 2 inches tall if you want, as tall as your index finger, almost. And I'm working with yarn that's off of Amazon. So you could choose whatever yarn brand color. So once you have your 16 cast on, we're going to go ahead and count down as a golden rule. Beginner or not beginner, you always want to count down to make sure you do not miss a loop, which is so easy. Once you're good, we're going to go ahead and connect it into a circle. We're going to take our tail, which you should have a couple of inches tail, and we're going to poke it into the second stitch to the last. Now this is one way to get it into a circle, and just like that, pull that tail right through the second stitch all the way nice and flushed. Make sure your foundation chain is not flipped on you. Nice and evenly flat going all the way around, because it will mess you up if it's twisted. Now here's when we're going to be knitting tight. Now you see how with pulled back on that working yarn, you want to be knitting these loops really tight, barely like way beneath the joint on your index finger. And I think this is like the number 1 factor of plushie perfection is knitting tight, especially if you're working with super bulky size 6. But we're going to go ahead and be pulling our loops through, pulling that working yarn right through the foundation chain loops, all 15 loops, because we had 1 loop sticking out. And so it should be 15 loops going all the way around. And this is how you start out pretty much all plushies, all rounded plushies. Think of a teddy bear. So very common, universal setup right here for all rounded plushies that are hand knitted. So we want a total of 16. Now use your tail as your golden marker. It will always be connected to stitch 1, aligned on the left side. So if you can see that, connected to stitch 1, aligned on the left side. And so your last loop you're going to be pulling is practically touching stitch 1. And so now go ahead and count around again. Rule of thumb here, we want 16. If you don't have 16, undo your work by pulling on the working yarn. Do it again. Now here is our second row, and we're going to be knitting a total in our primary color 10 rows. So here's row 2. I'm going to go ahead and put my foundation chain tail right in the middle just to get it out of my way, but be using that tail as my marker, because right now I'm not counting. I'm just pulling these loops, going all the way around. Once I get up to that tail, I know that is stitch 1, stop, this is the new row. So, to be able to relax and enjoy your hand knitting without having to count. Just constantly rely on that tail. So as I said, we're going to be doing a total of 10 rows in our primary. This is row 2. Now you see I'm picking on that tail right there. That's letting me know that is stitch 1, stop. This is a new row. Once you get to your 3rd row, always fold your foundation chain in half, just like so. Why? Because it helps you knit your loops tighter. It's all about eliminating the gaps, keeping it nice and flushed, seamless knitting. Now this is why I constantly reference to Loops and Threads Chunky Chenille. No, I'm sorry, Loops and Threads Fluffy Chenille at Michael's. Because it naturally helps you have a seamless finish. But to still knit tight, very tight, tiny little loops. Fold your foundation chain on the 3rd row and just really keep helping to keep these loops tight. But again, it's Loops and Threads, Fluffy Chenille, or let me see, Burnett Blanket Big Frosted. Very long title there, guys. But that one too, or Bacosi's Jumbo Yarn. Any like teddy bear variation yarn. So there is my 3rd row completed. Now you want to go all the way up to 10. But I want to show you really fast. What if you lose track of what row you're on? Simply gliding your fingertip and kind of lift your fingertip up a little bit. For every indent is a new row. So there's your foundation chain. That's 1, 2, 3. So you want to go up to 10. So you're going to do 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm going to be jumping ahead. And it should be looking something like this. I jump ahead, guys, so my tutorials aren't so long. Just pause the video. Once you have 10 rows in your primary, go ahead and snip it or just join in your secondary color. Burn method, handheld sewing method, or simply tie a knot or 2 knots. It is a plushie. The knot is not going to be seen and it will hold it. And so I'm doing just simply 1 knot here. It's for my Pooh Bear set. That's going to be on my kitchen counter, so 1 knot is fine. So now this is the 11th row. Now I'm going to be pulling right around that knot. And I'm going to be pulling, I'm going to be knitting for 3 rows. So 11th row, 12th row, 13th row in your secondary color. I'm going all blue here, but you can be doing purple. There's so many colors you can be doing, even brown. But once again, this is the 11th row, 12th row, 13th row in your secondary color. And so I'm giving this honey pot a pretty little design. Again, all preference. This is where you can get really creative and really fun with it. You get to change up the design every time. So I'm coming up to my 12th row now. And again, I'm going to do 12th and 13th. And then we're going to be casting it off on the 14th. So I'm coming up to the end of my 13th row here. Again, keeping these loops tight. And always refer back to your tail that this is stitch 1, so you completed that row. And it's going to be again a line on the left side, but for any decreasing, it's a line on the left side. Now this is the 14th row. We're going to be casting off, making a foundation chain, a border. So you're going to pull a nice longer loop here, a nice longer stitch. Now I'm going to give a comparison to my index finger, right up to my fingernail. So a good longer size. Now you're going to add 2 loops onto your finger and pull the working yarn right through, stretching up these loops. Every time you're pulling the working yarn through 2 loops on your finger, you're going to be stretching up a nice tall long loop. We're making a foundation chain, we're casting off, we're making the border, and you don't want it super tight. It's just like a blanket. You want it more loosely knitted, just like a blanket. So again, taking 2 loops on the finger and pulling that working yarn through. So a real exaggerated long loop and then a small loop you're going to be having on your finger or fingers. And pulling that working yarn right through to make a nice, pretty rim cast off border foundation chain. So we're going to go all the way around. And again, this is pretty much a universal skill right here. Casting off on a plushie. It's just like a blanket. So once you come up to right where you started, we're going to go ahead and enclose the bottom now. We no longer need that tail to help us let us know that's stitch 1. So universal skill here. Now there are 2 ways to enclose, but I like to teach where you're going to take your tail and weave it from inside out, or from this angle, bottom up. And this is going to give it a nice pretty enclose. And so notice that after every weave, going through all the loops on the foundation chain from bottom up, I am tugging. So after every weave, after every loop that you're pulling the working yarn through, make sure you're tugging to get a good effective enclose. Now if you're working with super bulky size 6, you can honestly go through a lot of loops and then tug, because usually that yarn is just more of a slippery quality to it, and so it's going to give you a really nice enclose. But after every stitch, give a nice good tug to keep minimizing this opening, the gap, to it's really nice and small. And so that's what I'm doing here. And you might start to see the enclose pretty good and have got through just 14 or 15 loops. Or you might have a gap still. Or you simply just keep going around. You just keep pulling your tail through the bottom stitches and tugging till it is enclosed. Now, once you go through it all, go ahead and flatten it up. We want a nice rounded bottom. So that's what I'm doing here. A nice rounded bottom. Use both your hands, just work it and get it nicely flat. So if I still had a gap, I would just keep going around. Just keep pulling under a stitch or 2. It's going to be pretty tight. but just keep weaving your tail and tugging, and you will enclose it. Once you're good to go, go ahead and tie a knot or no knot. Pull your working yarn right through a previous opening, or any part of the bottom chunky chenille yarn is forgiving. And I'm not going to put a knot, guys, because I use hot glue whenever I tuck in my tails. And then just keep on flattening, perfecting that bottom shape. We want a nice rounded shape. Okay, so now going back to our border, we're going to go ahead and cut off our secondary yarn. And now we're going to add in the honey color. And again, I'm simply just tying it on. 1 knot is good enough. You can do 2 knots, 3 knots. You can burn method, whatever method you're comfortable with. I'm going to go ahead and cut off the little tips here. You don't have to. It's a plushie. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I'm removing them because I don't want to confuse anyone with this tutorial with them in the way. So now I'm going to get that long exaggerated loop back on my fingers and connect it with the other end. As you saw, just slip it right, so 2 loops on the finger, and pull the yellow yarn right through. Pull your honey yarn right through. So to get it completely enclosed. So now we are doing the honey part. And we're going to be pulling loops right behind the foundation chain. So this is going to be a little bit tricky. So right behind it. So you're going to see the V of 2 loops that create the chain. And then directly behind it. Directly behind it, you're going to have a stitch. Right behind each set of V's. So that it could be a little bit confusing, hard to see, but this one's pretty distinguished right here. But if you're using fluffy chenille yarn or brunette frosted, it can all be blended. But the more you work with it, the more you'll distinguish it. So it's going to be the stitch right behind the foundation chain, right behind the V. The stitch that's right behind the top stitch of the V. So just watch closely, and that's where I'm pulling my loops through. So taking the next precedent stitch right behind each set of V's. And because we cast it on 16, and I already had that first honey colored loop that we pulled, I'm going to be pulling for 15. So we want a total of our foundation chain. So you should pull a total, you should have a total of 16. But you're going to be pulling for a total of 15. And so you see, as you work it, you will start to naturally distinguish it. If you're not, just go slow. It's the stitch right behind each set of V's that make the foundation chain. And make sure you could be pulling these loops, relatively tight. We're going to be doing 3 rows in total. We're going to be going all the way around 3 times. So this is the first row. Then we're going to do second row and third row. Done. So we're building up the enclose for the middle. So I'm pulling my last loop here because I'm coming it right to that first one. And here is where you're going to want to count. Again, like a golden rule, you always want to count to make sure you have your total worth, that you didn't skip one, that you didn't do an extra one. And if you did, you can undo your work, pull in the working yarn, do it again. But if it's an extra one, you know, it's fine. It's fine. Or if it's one less, it's still fine. But if you want perfection, you know, undo your work and go back around again. And you want a total of 16. So here is my second row. And I told you we're going to do 3 rows in total. A second row and third row done. Cut a couple of inches tail. And we're going to be enclosing it, which is so much more easier versus enclosing the foundation chain. Because it should smoothly enclose on you. I'm coming up to my third row now, and I'm using this to let you know, can you tell where that's that stitch 1 right there? That's what you know, that is the new row. So go ahead and do it through another row, guys. So I jumped ahead, just pause it. But you want a total of 3 rows. So now we're going to cut a couple of inches tail. I'm just giving you a visual of how long I cut it down to the secondary color. And here is where we're going to stuff. So you want a really good stuffing. In fact, stuffing, in my opinion, is the second biggest factor in plushie perfection. Because it is the stuffing that helps you get the shape that you want. If you're making a teddy bear and you want that perfect rounded body, rounded head, it is your stuffing. So same thing with the honey pot. A honey pot is a prime example, a perfect plushie to practice your stuffing. And do you see how I'm really working it in there? I'm also using my other hand. So I'm showing it right here. I'm stretching my hand out, stuffing this in. I'm using my other hand to hold the bottom and just be patting it. Now I'm working it from this angle. Rotate your plushie. Use both hands. Really work this stuffing in there. Don't be afraid to use a lot. When I was learning, for some reason, I made my plushies floppy. So really, I like to emphasize a lot that use a lot of polyfill. And don't be afraid that you're using too much. No, it's going to help your shape really form, especially round it. And honey pot is a perfect rounded plushie, guys. So I'm really compressing it. I'm using in all materials in the PDF, but I'm using Joyfill polyfill, and it really compresses. So for me, I'm going to use a lot of polyfill here. But I'm really trying to get this stuffed, overflowing looking honey pot. And it's such a joy to look at it when you have a nice, plushy, really rounded honey pot here. And so I'm adding more here, guys. So you want to bring it all the way up to the top before we begin enclosing, which is taking our tail and weaving it through all the loops, all 16 loops, from inside out and tugging. So way more easy, more enjoyable when you're enclosing the top of a plushie. The opposite end when you're not enclosing the foundation chain part. It's a little bit more easier. So you see I'm really packing it in there. I'm using some strength here to just really stuff it in there. I'm also kind of prying at my stitches at the bottom. I'm trying to really get this to be a rounded shape. Now once you feel, okay, this is good, use some kind of marker to hold stitch 1 open. Now you can use anything. I'm going to use a pencil. Because as you begin to tug, that stitch 1 connected to the tail will disappear on you. And so simply just slip in a pencil, a crayon, glue stick, a different color piece of yarn, anything to hold that loop open so you don't lose it. And you might need multiple markers. The bigger the foundation chain, the more markers, because then the stitch prior to stitch 1 will start to disappear on you. And just be weaving and tugging. If you snap your yarn, which happens to me still, even happens on camera and I leave it, just undo your work, reattach more yarn, and continue going back around. Here's where you can also be perfecting your polyfill, your stuffing. Add in more fluff, defluff. As you're enclosing, be taking advantage that you still have a gap where you can add in more polyfill or defluff. Now I'm removing my pencil here once you get up to your final stitch. Now do you see how sunken that was? I would have lost that stitch. So it's really important to just use some kind of marker. And that was my 16th stitch right there, or my stitch 1. And I'm going to add a little bit more polyfill here, guys. I add in plenty with my tutorials, especially when it's a rounded plushie. And give it a nice good pull there, a nice good tug. Now it's okay, like I said, if you have the tiniest little gap, especially if you're going to be using hot glue. But if you don't want a gap or it's a really big gap, simply weave your tail around, keep going around, and it will enclose on you, as I'm showing you right here. Just keep going around it. And it's way easier to keep going around it when you're enclosing the top part, not the foundation chain part. Now once you're good to go, tie a knot, tuck it in, a couple of knots, but I'm using hot glue like I said, guys, and so no need to make a knot. Now here I'm doing a little trick here. I'm using my scissors to help perfect the shape. If you know, because you don't want to make gaps, use your scissors to help make this shape. Now you can kind of see like there's almost a little starfish pattern there. The more had we knitted more rows, it would have made it puffy and it would have made a starfish shape. It's really pretty. I have that on my sea turtle and my jumbo turtle. The more knitted rows, a starfish shape appears. And again, like I said, use your scissors to help perfect the rounded shape, because you don't want to be prying your fingers in it too much. And that's just a little trick right there. So this was part 1 right here. If you're happy with your honey pot, there you go. You can add your cute little embellishments. But I'm going to show you in part 2 on how to give the illusion of honey overflowing. And it's basically surface crocheting. Thank you so much.